I can't take this anymore. Please, say something to him too, I begged Nathaniel, my frustration boiling over. He looked at me, bewildered. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? This isn't sudden, I shot back. I've asked you countless times, haven't I? Just be direct with him. I was pleading with my husband to tell his younger brother to move out of our home. You expect me to throw out my own brother when he has nowhere else to go? Nathaniel asked, torn between loyalty and reason. You're my wife, and to him, you're his sister-in-law. How can you even suggest that? Before I could respond, my mother-in-law jumped in. Exactly, how heartless can you be? Not only did my husband refuse to see my side, but now even my mother-in-law made me out to be the villain. This is the story of the family I unwillingly became a part of. My name is Aileen. I married Nathaniel when I was 29, after meeting him through an arranged introduction. Back in school, my world revolved around karate, a passion I'd pursued since childhood. I dedicated my time to training and balancing it with academics, leaving little room for romance. That didn't mean I never wanted to get married, I just never had the opportunity to focus on relationships. As an adult, I found myself struggling to connect with men in a meaningful way. Dating felt foreign to me. Seeing this, my boss at work introduced me to Nathaniel, believing we would be a good match. My first impression of Nathaniel was that he was incredibly kind. As a military officer, he had a calm, peaceful demeanor that drew me in. Since he seemed interested in me, and I had always envisioned getting married by 30, I accepted his offer to date. Things progressed smoothly, and before long, we fell deeply in love. I admired his sincerity and gentle nature, believing we could build a future together. Eventually, he proposed, and I didn't hesitate to accept. Our wedding went off without a hitch, and I truly believed our life together would be nothing but happiness. When we decided to marry, my well-off parents, who owned several vacation properties, gifted me one of their houses. You can pick any one you like, they told me. I chose a modest yet comfortable home, spacious enough for a growing family but not overly extravagant. It had a lovely backyard and was conveniently located near public transport and supermarkets. It was, in every way, an ideal home. Nathaniel, who was usually reserved in expressing emotions, seemed genuinely amazed. This is incredible. Are you sure it's okay for us to accept something this nice? He murmured, almost apologetically. At that moment, I was certain we were about to embark on a wonderful life together. And for a while, we did. Our wedding was perfect, and the months that followed were filled with happiness. But then, tragedy struck. Nathaniel's father, who had been battling a long-term illness, passed away. My husband had a younger brother, but he lived in another prefecture, working at a factory. We had only met briefly, once at our wedding and again at the funeral. After the funeral, Nathaniel began checking in on his mother more frequently. Soon, she started visiting our house regularly. I understood his concern. He was the eldest son, and she was now living alone, but I had a demanding job, and home was my only refuge. Having her around all the time made me uneasy. Then, one day, Nathaniel made an announcement. Aileen, I think my mom should move in with us. What? I blinked in surprise. Where is this coming from? She already spends most of her time here. Wouldn't it be easier if she lived with us permanently? He reasoned, his eyes bright with excitement, as if he'd come up with the perfect plan. Hold on, this is a huge decision. We have our own life, too, I protested. But the house has extra space, and she wouldn't have to keep traveling back and forth. It just makes sense, he said, completely unmoved by my hesitation. At first, I resisted, but Nathaniel kept pushing. I'd feel better knowing she's not alone, he insisted. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I also didn't have a strong enough argument to outright refuse. Before I could fully process it, my mother-in-law sold her house, leaving us no choice but to take her in. I blamed Nathaniel for making such a huge decision without consulting me, but his response? The house is already gone, she has nowhere else to go, what else can we do? And just like that, I found myself living with my mother-in-law. It wasn't that she outright mistreated me, but she constantly reminded me, you're the daughter-in-law now. You married into this family, so you should dedicate yourself to it, she'd say whenever I tried to prioritize my own needs. If I ever put myself first, she would chide, you should be more aware of your role as a daughter-in-law. Home no longer felt like home. To escape the suffocating atmosphere, I started working overtime more often, avoiding unnecessary interactions with her. But things were still manageable, until the day my brother-in-law announced he was quitting his job and moving back home. The news caught all of us off guard, but there was a bigger issue: where would he live? His childhood home had already been sold, and when he found out, he was furious. Nobody told me the house was being sold, he fumed. Who decided that without consulting me? Nathaniel tried to calm him down. I'm sorry, we were worried about Mom living alone, and we thought you were settled with your job. You didn't even ask me, he snapped. You made that decision on your own, and now I have nowhere to go. Take responsibility, you idiot older brother. Nathaniel, who was supposed to be the responsible eldest son, just stood there, stunned and silent. He couldn't even defend himself. Honestly, I didn't think my brother-in-law had the right to be angry. He had chosen to live elsewhere and never once sent money home, and now he wanted to come back and be accommodated? But in the end, Nathaniel caved. It's just temporary, he assured me, until he finds another job. I was firmly against it. But, as always, my opinion didn't seem to matter. I turned to my husband and said firmly, I don't want to live with your brother. Your mother and I are already covering all the expenses now that she's moved in. My husband sighed. As soon as he finds a job, we'll ask him to leave. Just be patient until then. I couldn't throw him out on my own, so in the end, my brother-in-law moved in. By that point, my mental state was already taking a toll, but the real trouble was yet to come. At first, the agreement was that he would actively look for a job, but a month passed, and he hadn't made the slightest effort. He didn't browse job listings, never went to interviews, and spent his days lounging around the house. Some days, he locked himself in his room blasting music at full volume. Other times, he monopolized the living room TV for hours. My frustration grew with each passing day. On top of that, the moment I got home from work, he treated me like his personal maid. It was unbearable. I finally broke down and vented to my husband. It's about your brother, he treats me like a servant. He chuckled, as if I were exaggerating. He looks up to you, Aileen. He sees you like an older sister. Older sister? I shot back. He bosses me around like I work for him. I am not his maid. It's fine, isn't it? You're my wife, after all, he responded casually. That was the last straw, I snapped. I am your wife, not his. But my husband dismissed my anger with a sigh. Enough already. I get that he's not your husband, but he's still your brother-in-law. Can't you just get along and not make a fuss? I was beyond disappointed. To him, the solution was for me to simply endure it. At that moment, I realized complaining to him was pointless. From then on, I stopped talking about my mother-in-law and brother-in-law. Instead, I occasionally called my parents to vent. If things get too hard, you can always come back home, they reassured me. Their words kept me going. But one day, my brother-in-law caused a disaster. I came home from work to find a fire truck parked in front of the house. Firefighters were just leaving, with my husband and mother-in-law thanking them. Alarmed, I rushed over. What happened? Why was there a fire truck here? My husband and mother-in-law exchanged nervous glances before hesitantly answering. Well, your brother-in-law accidentally started a fire with a cigarette butt. I was furious. A fire? In my house? As I demanded details, I learned that a small fire had started because of his carelessness. My mother-in-law had panicked and called my husband and the fire department. Why didn't anyone tell me? I shouted. It was pure coincidence that I arrived while the firefighters were still there. If I hadn't, were they just planning to keep this a secret from me? Neither my husband nor my mother-in-law had an answer. Frustrated, I stormed into my brother-in-law's room without knocking. Hey, what the hell? Knock first, he shouted. I ignored him and scanned the room. Right beside his futon, the floor was scorched. Ever since he moved in, the house had reeked of smoke, which had already been driving me insane. Now there were burn marks on my precious home? I had reached my limit. Even with my mother-in-law and brother-in-law right there, I had no hesitation. I turned to my husband. Say something to him. He looked at me, exasperated. What's with the sudden outburst? This isn't sudden. I've been telling you over and over. He needs to leave. Finally, I demanded outright. Tell him to move out. My husband let out a deep sigh. You want me to kick out my own brother when he has nowhere else to go? You're my wife. And to him, you're his sister-in-law. How could you even say that? My mother-in-law chimed in, glaring at me. You really are heartless. Not only was I not being supported, but now I was being blamed for the fire. Why was I the villain? This house was originally a gift from my father. My husband, his mother, and his brother had no right to act like they owned it. I stood my ground. He needs to leave, now. My husband scoffed. If you can't stand it, then why don't you leave? My brother-in-law watched silently as I turned and walked away, fuming. The next day, when I got home from work, something was wrong. My key wouldn't fit in the lock. I tried again and again, but the door wouldn't open. There was no response when I rang the doorbell. Then, my phone buzzed. A message from my husband. I've changed the locks. Once you've calmed down, I'll let you back in. I was livid. Don't mess with me. If this is how it's going to be, I'm leaving for good. Without hesitation, I went straight to my parents' house and told them everything. Their expressions darkened as they listened. My father spoke up. Leave it to me, Aileen. He contacted a lawyer he knew, and things moved quickly. A divorce was filed, and a legal notice was sent, demanding my husband vacate the house. A meeting was arranged at the house with the lawyer present. As soon as we sat down, my husband scoffed. Divorce over something like this? That's ridiculous. But when I calmly said, I'm prepared to take this to court, his confidence wavered. When the topic of him leaving the house came up, he protested. This is our home as a married couple, I have rights as the husband, he declared smugly. But the lawyer pulled out an official document and set it in front of him. You have no rights to this house, the lawyer stated. The color drained from my husband's face. My mother-in-law and brother-in-law, who had been watching smugly, also paled. That's right, the house had been a pre-marriage gift from my father, meaning it was legally mine. They had no claim to it. As realization hit them, their arrogance crumbled. Desperate, my husband blurted out, can we reconsider the divorce? The lawyer turned to me. What do you want to do? Without hesitation, I answered, proceed with the divorce. My husband and his family slumped in defeat. In the end, he agreed to the divorce, and they all moved out. I later heard that they ended up in a rundown apartment. My mother-in-law and brother-in-law constantly fought, and my brother-in-law even got into legal trouble for assaulting someone. But none of that mattered to me anymore. I had reclaimed my house. I renovated the room my brother-in-law had damaged, erasing the burn marks that once taunted me. Now, my parents visit on weekends, and I'm enjoying peaceful, happy days again. As a token of appreciation, I took the lawyer who helped me out for dinner. We still keep in touch, meeting up from time to time. Who knows, maybe one day, I'll experience marriage again, this time with someone who truly values me. But for now, I'm just enjoying my newfound freedom. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video, stay tuned.